Hey guys, so today we're going to be going over the imperfect or el imperfecto tense in Spanish, and this is the second past tense, and most likely you're learning this after you've already learned the preterite. So let's get right into it. Okay, so the first thing about the imperfect is that it's an action that occurred in the past, obviously, but it happened more than once. So, for example, in the preterite, you see ayer hice la tarea. So yesterday, I did the homework. It was a one-time thing. You did the homework. But if you said cuando era niño hacía la tarea, when I was young, I used to do homework, indicating you don't do the homework right now. Okay, so for some verbs, for example, like pensar, when you think about it like you're not thinking it most of the time for like 1 second. That the thought goes on for more than one instance. So usually you use the imperfect. Like you're allowed to use pensar in the preterite, but usually the imperfect. A couple other verbs too, like sometimes creer. Not always, though. Okay, so here are the conjugations for most verbs. AR verbs, aba, tu abas, el aba, nosotros abamos, ellos abais, or vosotros abais, and ellos aban. So basically you take away the AR ending and then you add that in. So hablar would become hablaba. Yo hablaba. Okay, that's simple. And then for ER and IR, you have all of them have accents, just in the nosotros form does for AR. So you'd have ia, ias, ia, iamos, iais, and ian. So for example, you have vivir. You said I used to live. It would be yo vivia. Just like that. Take away the ER, IR ending and add that in. Okay, so here's some example sentences. Cuando tenía 5 años, jugaba mucho en el parque. So when I was, so you have tener, take away the ER and add, because it's yo, aye, tenía 5 años. Jugaba mucho en el parque. And then obviously jugar, take away the AR, and because it's yo jugaba, or yo, and then jugar, jugaba. Estaba comprando una bebida cuando ella gritó. He was buying. So this is the progressive, the past progressives. You have estar in the imperfect tense. De niño, yo siempre sentía muy triste. When I was young, yo siempre sentía, I used to feel. Okay, so here's the irregular verbs. Not some irregular verbs, there are 3, literally only 3 in the whole entire tense. Ser, ir, and ver. So ser is yo era, tu eras, él era, nosotros éramos, vosotros erais, and ellos eran. These verbs are not like you add on to ser. It's not like sera. It's just literally era. Now, ir was with the ibas accent on the nosotros forms of ser and ir, and then ver, veía, veías, veíamos, veían, veía, all of them have accents on them. So this also would apply to irse. So for example, me iba. Cuando era niño, me iba con mis amigos mucho. So I went out with my friends, something like that. Okay, cuando eran jóvenes les gustaba jugar baloncesto. Okay, so when they were, eran, they, ser to be, were, when they were young, les gustaba, so that, or a ellos les gustaba jugar baloncesto. They used to like, because gustar, gustaba. It wouldn't be gustaban because it's one thing. It has the same rules, gustar, in the past tense, so it's not nos gustábamos. It's still nos gustaba or nos gustaban. Todos nosotros veímos la cascada cuando la pasamos en coche. So all of us were watching the waterfall when we passed it in the car. Ibas a tocar la guitarra pero decidiste tocar el saxophone. So you were going to, ir a, and then infinitive, going to, you were going to play the guitar. Okay, so some verbs in the preterite and the imperfect, they change meaning. Not the imperfect, but in the preterite. So for example, you see querer is to try in the preterite. It changes from to want. And to want would be the imperfect version. So quería versus, or yo quería versus yo quise. So here's some examples of this. Querían escalar la montaña. They wanted to climb the mountain versus quisieron escalar la montaña. They tried to. Because in the preterite, it's to try, and the imperfect, it's to want. This is the preterite side, that's the imperfect side. The same applies with saber. So for example, in the imperfect it's to know, but in the preterite it's to find out. So those are completely different meanings. Good ones to know too are poder, to manage in the preterite, and conocer, to meet. Also tener, to receive. So saber is to find out in the preterite. So supimos que cinco personas vinieron. We found out that 5 people came. But in the imperfect, it's still to know, so we knew that 5 people came. Okay, just like that. So you're also able to combine the two in one sentence. So for example, cuando era niño, when I was little, once, now implying the preterite, dije las groserías enfrente de mis padres. I said curse words in front of my parents. So yeah. Okay, this is a really nice sentence right here. Cuando tenía 30 años, usé el batón para suscribirse a mi casa es tu casa para recibir contenido semanal. So obviously, when I was 30 years old, I used the button in order to subscribe to Mi Casa, Tu Casa to get weekly Spanish content. Which, by the way, right up there. Yeah, okay. So here's some indicator words. And the most common one I see is siempre, which is always, de vez en cuando, from time to time. You see that. A menudo, often. Nunca, never. Muchas veces, many times. Cada día, every day. Con frecuencia, frequently. Stuff like that. So study those up. And this is obviously, these 3 are usually, frequently, and generally. Oh, whoops. So here's the preterite versions of it. This is what you should avoid. So evita. Evitar, to avoid. So de repente, suddenly. Ayer, yesterday. Obviously, all these are like specific times. So one thing that happened in specific. This is just kind of in general in the past. This is one specific thing. So one thing to add on is using a star in the imperfect, even though it's one thing. So for example, you have hace una semana. That's in the preterite. You use the preterite after. So a week ago. For example, a week ago, fui a la tienda. So a week ago, I went to the store. However, if you're using a star, so for example, a week ago, I was in the store. You wouldn't use the preterite for that. You could, but usually a star is most of the time in the imperfect. In the preterite, it's irregular, so yo estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvieron. And in the imperfect, it's just estaba with the abas. Let me just write something. So a week ago, I was in the store. So you'd think it's estuve because it's a one time, but it's estaba. Just wanted to point that out. By the way, even though it is Google Translate, that is correct. Okay, so one thing to add on is the verb soler, or solia specifically, because it's really whack, this verb. So for example, it means to used to, kind of. Like to be accustomed to. It's really weird. Basically, it's kind of like to used to. So because the imperfect implies, like for example, comprar, compraba, I used to buy, you can kind of just say, yo solía comprar, so I used to buy, or instead of just compraba. So for example, here's one sentence. De pequeño solía pasar las vacaciones en las montañas. So I used to spend vacations in the mountains. Instead of pasaba, you can just do this if you want, but this is an alternative. For example, iba a la escuela cada día. I used to go to school every day, or solía ir a la escuela cada día. I used to go to school every day. Exactly the same thing, just wanted to point that out. Okay, so last thing, the verb haber in the imperfect tense. Okay, so I means, like you probably know, there are. Hay tres personas aquí. There are 3 people here. So what if you want to say there was, or there were? You'd use había. Okay, and so for example, if you said había, that would be there was, and habían at the end to make it plural, there were. So for example, había una persona allí. There was a person there. So obviously, if you know haber, like the perfect tense, you can say stuff like ellos habían ido ya. They had gone, the had part, but that's a whole other subject, and this is the conjugation in case you're wondering. I have a video on that. You should go watch that, by the way. But other than that, that's the entire imperfect tense. I'll be coming out with a video later on when to use the imperfect and when to use the preterite specifically, but hopefully you have a pretty good idea of it. See ya.